Welcome to Sheikh Nissar's social science classes. Today we are going to know about the first printed books. But before knowing the first printed books, we should be knowing these terms. Calligraphy, it is the art of beautiful and stylish writing. The art of beautiful and stylish writing is known as calligraphy. Then vellum, it is a parchment made from the skin of the animal. In China, in ancient times or in earlier times in China, a parchment made from the skin of the animal was used for writing. Platen, a board which is pressed on the back of the paper so that an impression is laid on the paper to get the writing. Then it is ballad. Ballad is a historical account or folk tale in verses usually sung or recited. And we may say the ballad, it is a famous poetic device which means rhythmic. Now we may see the first printed books. We will be knowing now these terms, and these terms are going to be very important in this chapter, which is the print culture and the modern world. The first printed books. The earliest kind of technology, print technology, earliest kind of technology, that is the printing technology, developed in China, Japan, and Korea. The first type of, or we may say the earliest kind of technology of the printing technology was developed in China, Japan, and Korea. Now we may see here this print culture or the earliest kind of print in China. The earliest kind of printing technology in China was a sort of hand printing. That is printing done through hands. This printing was done through hands, that is a sort of wood blocks was used with the Chinese paper. This wood block was carved, or we may say writing was carved on the wooden slab or wooden block. And this Chinese paper was thin, it was porous. So the Chinese paper, it was rolled around the wooden block and stitched on the sides. Thus, an impression was laid on the paper. Impression of the wooden block which was inked. Was laid on the paper. The wooden block was inked, and that inked wooden block, its impression was laid on the paper, and this developed print. This was the printing system in China, which was called as the wooden block printing system. So what was the wooden block printing system? It was a system in which a wooden block or wooden slab was used. That wooden slab was inked and the paper was rolled around it, stitched on the sides, and which laid an impression on the paper. Thus, this sort of printing was called as wood block printing system. It was done in China. And through this, in AD 594, AD means anatomy, a book printed through wood block printing system was Chinese accordion book. The first, or we may say the oldest book of China, that was the accordion book. It was developed through wood block printing system by using the wooden slab, inked wooden slab, and the Chinese paper. It was published, or rather we may say a book published through this using wooden block printing system was developed in 594 AD. This was called as the accordion book. So we may say the Chinese accordion book is the first or the oldest book of China. China for a long time, China was printing the books, or we may say the Chinese imperial state. The imperial state of China was publishing the printing material. What is meant by the imperial state here? Imperial state means the ruling government. The ruling government in China, imperial state in China, was the major producer of printed material. Imperial state, I told you, it was the ruling government, it was a leading producer of the printing material, and it hold the exams, the civil services exams were conducted by the Chinese imperial state. So we may say that China was conducting the civil service exams before the 16th century. So this gives us an idea that books were published, books were printed and published for the civil service exams. But from the 16th century, the number of participants, or rather we may say the applicants, in the civil services exams went up. When the number of participants in the civil service exams went up, it means the volume of the print increased. Volume of print increased. Why it increased? Because the number of participants increased. So it was obvious that the volume of the print increased. This civil service exam was sponsored by the Chinese imperial state. And from the 17th century, the Chinese urban culture bloomed. When the Chinese urban culture bloomed, it resulted in the diversification of print. Because of the bloom in the urban culture, the diversification of the Chinese print culture bloomed. There was a diversification in the print. It was no longer with the elite class, or we may the scholars who were printing using this printing system, or who were reading. Now the students, the merchants used this print culture in their daily lives, in their trade, in reading. Reading became a leisure activity. This developed a new reading class. This new reading class started reading autobiographies, novels, narrations, poetry. And besides this, the women in China They also started reading in their leisure time. Those women were rich women. When they started reading and writing in their leisure time, they started writing poems, dramas, etc. It was read by or written by the woman. But these women were rich women. And this was accompanied by the Western printing culture. And the mechanical presses that were imported from the West by the late 19th century. These printing presses or this Western printing culture, it was mixed with the Chinese printing culture. And this resulted, there was a transformation of the printer from hand printing gradually transformed into the mechanical printing system. This was the printing culture in China, and the first printed book, we may say, now we may have a clear idea about the first printed book in China. The first printed book in China was the accordion book. It was a book which was developed or which was printed through a wood block printing system by using the wooden block that was inked, and the Chinese paper which was thin and porous that was rolled around it and stitched on the both sides. Thus developed a first book, that the Chinese developed the first book in 594 AD, that was the Chinese accordion book. It is said that it was the oldest book of China. Thank you.